Alex said, Man City hearing starts tomorrow. Thoughts? I don't really have too many, mate, because you're still looking at minimum of a couple of months for this hearing to play out, and then somewhere between January and March before the verdict comes out. So I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. And also, whatever happens, whether Manchester City win the appeal and the charges have disappeared, or whether the Premier League's decision stands, it's most likely going to be appealed by one of the two sides, which will mean it's going to drag on even further. Now, a couple of things I'd like to clarify around the Manchester City situation is, unlike when UEFA tried to hold them to account, Manchester City or the Premier League cannot take this to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. They can't do that. In the Premier League rules, it states that this cannot be appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, as they're not recognised in the Premier League's laws. So it can be appealed, though, and it will be appealed to the same panel, only it will be a different 3 judges, I believe, or a list of 3 judging people, legal minds, who would, again, look at the situation. So whatever happens with it, I don't expect this to be finished until probably closer to the end of this season, before we get the appeals and all out of the way. And then who knows what's going to happen. We all know what we want. We've seen what's happened with City over the years. We all know that they've been charged. But hopefully they can make these charges stick, because many of us really do want to just see what we believe to be justice served here. But, they do have the right to go through the legal process, and let's wait and see how it works out. My thoughts on them. I mean, I've made them pretty clear over the years. What do I think is going to be the outcome of the City trial? Well, hopefully they have the book thrown at them. Because let's be honest, Johan, none of us feel they're not guilty. None of us. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn there to say that if you were to talk to the footballing world, 99% of fans outside of Manchester City fan base probably feel like they realistically do have genuinely issues that they need to be called to account for. What we can't control is what happens in the hearing. We don't know, but we know what we feel. We know what we've seen. We know what we've seen reported. And you don't just pull 115 charges out of your backside. It is a lot of charges to label at a football club. And those charges are being based off the reporting and the information that the Premier League were given. So what I hope happens is that they're made an example of. Because I don't want the Premier League to become a rich person's plaything where the most money being thrown at something gets you away with whatever you want. Nobody wants it becoming Farmers League where they win it 6, 7, 8 years in a row. It's all very well and good. Some people trying to say that Manchester City made a profit in this window and Manchester City in recent years have done this, that or the other. But this isn't about the last 1 or 2 years. This is about how did Manchester City get from a club that was yo-yoing through divisions to become one of, if not the most powerful football club in the world. We have to ask that genuine question. Do we believe that they did nothing to skirt around the rules or to hide stuff or anything like that, and that they got to here by merit? I would argue absolutely not. My view is no, they did not. They broke rules, they hid payments and everything that... And I say this as somebody who genuinely has spent a lot of time reading up on the Manchester City situation, from their Spiegel leaks through to the documentaries I've watched. I've tried to give myself as much familiarity with the situation as I can, and I still feel like they are absolutely taking the piss. It's not jealousy, it's to do with genuinely feeling they're taking the piss. If they didn't do anything wrong, why not cooperate? It nearly made me fall off my chair the other day, Dragadillion, when Pep Guardiola looked in a press conference and said to the reporter, as always, we will accept whatever is given. And I thought, accept what? Accept what? What have you ever accepted? You've appealed, thrown money at, and dragged out every single investigation. He has the cheek to sit there and tell the world that he wants it resolved quickly, when the Premier League and everybody else knows that Manchester City have gone out of their way to drag this out and have gone out of their way to not be cooperative. In fact, some of the charges are about them not being fully cooperative. But none of these journalists have the balls to sit there and say, Pep, you're talking out your hoop. Mate, you're saying one thing, but the actions of your football club are the very opposite. This is why I get so wound up with journalists. Grow a backbone. Like, did you go to journalistic college and school to just want to be a yes man? To not be able to actually ask the tough questions because you're scared of not getting access anymore? Everybody knows Guardiola's full of shit. But yet they're too scared to call him on it. Because it's Pep and he's the media darling. Fuck that. He's talking out his arse. Everybody knows it. They've helped with nothing. They've accepted nothing. They've appealed everything and made it as difficult as possible. And he sits there looking into the camera like the greasy fucker that he is, telling everybody that, okay, I'm Pep. Fuck you. Your legacy's going to be tarnished. Manchester City are absolutely making this as difficult as possible for the investigators. And no amount of sitting there looking all, oh, shucks, I'm Pep, is going to fool anyone. Journalists need to grow a backbone. Sky need to grow a backbone. And they need to start calling them out. Because in any other walk of life, if a politician or anybody else was sitting there lying straight down the camera, they'd be called out on it. Or they'd be fact-checked on it. But not Pep. Pep can sit there and say what he wants. Because he'll just wink at somebody or smile and they'll go, oh, it's Pep. Fuck him. Look after the sport. Call him out. Do your damn jobs. That's the way I see it. I'm fed up of it. Same with, I think Arteta gets away with too much as well, by the way. But Pep Guardiola literally says the opposite of everything that is happening, and people just go, yeah. That's my honest take on it. And I say this as somebody who's been a Barcelona fan my entire life and somebody who idolised Guardiola. But I have lost so much respect for the man with all of this. All of it. And there's not one single part of me that believes that he doesn't think that maybe, just maybe, Manchester City have been up to something. Even if it was before he got there. Look at the payments around Mancini. Look at all that scenario. And yeah, he just sits there lying through his fucking teeth to the camera. And the journalists don't have the backbone to ask him, what, Pep? Elaborate on that, please, Pep. When have you accepted everything? Like you've just said, you will accept as you always do. When have you accepted anything, Pep? Did you accept it when UEFA punished you? No, you appealed it. Did you accept the Premier League's 115 charges? No, you appealed it. So when do you accept it? Because you just said, as we always do. He doesn't. Journal's job isn't to suck up, it's to report the facts. Sports journalism's in the mud. Exactly, Johan. And do you know what gets me so much, mate, is these same people that look down their nose at fan content and view us all as toxic or idiots or not intelligent or articulate enough. It's very ironic to me that the fan channels are the ones that have the balls to call stuff out. A lot of the time, not all the time. Of course, there are going to be some outlets of fan channels that are very sympathetic to the clubs and all this stuff all the time and will never do any wrong. But many call it out because they care about the club and they care about what happens. So you're right, mate. Sports journalism, to me, in some regards, is in the mud. There are still some good journalists out there doing some good work, don't get me wrong. But I very much agree with you that that's why people have turned away from a lot of the written articles and stuff to come towards fan channels, because we're not withholding to shareholders. We're not withholding to get access to the clubs. We just say what we feel. We say what we deem to be true about the clubs that we all love. And I think people that resonates with people. You know, whether you're a fan of the United Stand, AFTV, True Geordie, The Irish Guy, me, the Blue Boys Network, Chelsea TV, whoever it is, something that they say resonates with you and you watch with them. I find these days I resonate far more with fan content creators than I do with many of the mainstream journalists, because I don't think that they're being true to their roots. I don't. Like, I look at the Echo at times and I think, who do you represent? Are you writing on behalf of the club, or are you writing on behalf of the readers that you're supposed to be there to tell about the club? Because I just see them as cheerleaders for the club and never criticising them, even when they blatantly do stuff wrong. And I don't think that's a healthy relationship. You know, I wouldn't surround myself with yes men. I wouldn't want our politicians to go unchallenged. I wouldn't want our educators to go unchallenged. Why do we accept it in sport? Why are owners and those in power in football not accountable? Why are hearings always held in private? Why does football have a fear of transparency? You know the answer. It's because it's greasy as fuck. Football is a massive pot of hypocrisy. Football clubs claim to have all of these morals until it hits their bottom line, and then morals go out the window. For instance, where's the bans for Enzo Fernandez? Doesn't happen, but if you said what he said inside the stadium, you'd be banned, and rightly so. Football clubs are fucking hypocrites. They absolutely are. Sorry, but they are. Doesn't mean we don't love them, but I get sick of being preached to. I get sick of Sky and everybody else telling me to stamp hate out of the game and remove her from the game. And if one sports person gets something said against them, it's headlines everywhere. But everybody else can be abused from one end of the day to the next, and social media companies don't give a fuck. You can come on here and troll anybody you want, shout abuse at me, Goldbridge, Robbie, whoever. That's alright though. We apparently aren't real people. We don't count. We're here to be abused. They don't hold the same standards for everyone. They hold us to a standard that they won't hold themselves to. And that annoys me. And I think it annoys a lot of other people as well. Yeah. That, again, sometimes my honesty of how I feel probably lands me in trouble at times. But genuinely, that's where I'm at with football. There's a lot of greasy stuff that, you know, they profess to want to do one thing, but in reality, it's very different at times.